Hi and welcome to episode 3 of Podpadstudios in lockdown for another 3 weeks. No, it's been 3 weeks. It might be longer. We don't know. Nobody really knows. Anyway, it's been weird. It's been really, really weird. We haven't been out on the road and we haven't been doing the kind of the normal things that we would be doing really now.
It's been quite hard.
Yeah, it's been a bit strange.
You know, like most small businesses, we're finding it quite hard because there's not much going on. So you guys could help us. Please subscribe. And please remember, ding, hit the bell to get your notifications and get everyone you know to subscribe and give us a like. That will really help us.
Yeah, comments as well.
Oh, comments, yeah.
Comments are really, really useful. They're brilliant as well. Tell us the projects that you're working on. If we are talking about particular projects, sometimes we will have a habit of sort of skimming over things. If you want more detail, put it in the comment below and tell us, you know, what would you like to hear more of? We can even do specials on particular things as well. Like we've had some comments already about, you know, what camera systems are we using to record the shows and how do we get them looking the way they look and how do we get all the detailed shots outside? We could talk about that if you want as well and lots of things really.
Yeah, because we're going to be doing one a week, so, you know, we can slip stuff in for you and we'd love to hear what you're building.
Yeah, we're thinking about doing mini shows as well, weren't we?
Yeah, that's
that was
right.
really because obviously we use an
minis.
awful lot of tech. You know, obviously laser cutters, 3D printers, and we're going to do some mini shows as well, which are going to be very short shows showing you the kind of tech that we use and, you know, what we can produce on this sort of thing. And it might inspire you to go away and do some of it yourself, really. So,
great. So this week, what we're doing this week?
Yeah, today, right, we're going to focus on building.
Yay!
So building it's the fundamental core of what we do here. So we've got all the beautiful finished products that we've showed you, but really building is where it all is all at. How we glue surfaces together, how we weld things together, how we solder things together. You know, taking two pieces of material and making permanent bonds.
Yeah, but what about the virtual con? Because we did that this week, first of its kind ever, and also we've got a new prop. We haven't showed it to anyone yet.
I know, that's really important, but building is really important. How we actually made them in the first place.
Gluing.
I could talk about gluing for hours.
All right, I tell you what, I'll leave you to talk about gluing. I'm going off to make a cup of tea.
Well, don't forget the cup.
Oh, right, here you go.
Right, can I have a cup of tea as well?
Yeah, okay.
Right, anyway, so, gluing. So, over to the workbench. You know what, we rely a lot on this kind of stuff. Everything that we actually build at Podpadstudios is either stuck together, welded together or soldered together. So glues are an integral part of what we do. Boring, probably. Essential, yes. Now, there are thousands of different types of glues that we could actually talk about, but what we're going to really focus on is the glues that actually work for us. Oh, brilliant. Oh, thank you. Oh, no.
Sorry.
Let's put those over there. So, as I was saying, we're going to focus on the glues that actually work for us. I'm going to start off with water-based glues. Now, this is a water-based wood glue. Now, this is a glue that we use a lot. We've used this in the building of one of our Batmobiles, which was made entirely from wood, which was glued together with this. One of our recent projects, which was our Dragon project, where we had the main bodies of the dragons were made from paper mache. And this is a resin-based wood glue. It's incredibly strong. We've built projects that have been out in forests and have lasted for years and years, stuck with this glue. It's not a cheap PVA glue. It's a really, really good resin-based, water-based glue. Superb for sticking wood. Right, so next we're going to look at contact adhesive. Now, a word of warning, this is smelly stuff, pretty toxic stuff. Don't use this inside, use it outside, unless you're in a very, very well ventilated area. We use this stuff, contact adhesive, for sticking foam. We use it for sticking rubber. We recently glued all the scales to the dragons, over 20,000 neoprene scales glued with this material, and it's amazing. Now, the way it works is really, really simple. Contact adhesive like this, and this is a spray version of the same thing, needs to be applied to one surface of the EVA foam and the other surface of the EVA foam. You simply bring the two together, and once you stick them together, they don't come apart. Give it an hour and they'll never come apart ever and ever again. This one's used primarily in the automotive industry. It's a kind of an industrial version of basically a home one. This is the sort of thing you use to stick cardboard and paper at home that you can get from a hobby shop. Nothing wrong with it, great, but this is more of an industrial version. Much higher temperature as well, meaning that you can leave your EVA foam out in the sun, glued with this, and it's not going to come apart. Little tip, don't use a brush with this, because otherwise you'll never use that brush again. Use a piece of wood to spread it onto the two surfaces. Also with this, we buy glues in quite large bulk because we use it in bulk. I would suggest you buy this in a small container, because the problem is, if you only use a small amount of a container this size, put it on a shelf in a workshop, come back in a couple of months' time, there's going to be no glue in there. You're going to be left with a big blob of rubber. So don't waste your money. Get little containers and do it kind of more often. So contact adhesive is what we use to work with foams, EVAs and rubbers. Okay then, so we're going to come on now to these kind of glues. Now, these sorts of glues are used quite a lot in the building industry. You don't tend to see these used in the model industry much. They are hybrid-based glues, solvent-based glues, again, like the contact adhesive. So you've got to be very careful about where you use these glues. And, you know, safety is actually important with these ones because they can be quite vicious. You need to apply them with this kind of gun. So the idea is the glue goes in there. They come in 350ml capsules, clip into the gun, you squeeze the trigger and the glue comes out. These are reusable as well. So they're actually quite good value for money buying them like this. Basically, we use this quite a lot. Now I want to tell you a little story about this.
It was like it when I found it, honest to God. It was genuinely like it. When I put my feet on it, it must have been broken before, because...
Now, our Fly VR, our Blade Runner vehicle, recently had to have the windscreen put into it. So originally we were going to go with a glass windscreen, but we decided not to because it was too heavy. So we decided instead to go with an acrylic material. Now, this acrylic material, a little sample of it here, is amazing. It's black from the outside, it's clear from the inside. It's incredibly lightweight, it's only 5mm thick, but we are actually putting a windscreen in there that's 2 meters by 1 meter. And it's amazingly versatile. Obviously, gluing it in is very, very important because it also has to be waterproof, the seal that's formed. So straight away, we'd use a glue like this. We choose to use a glue like this. This glue, it will glue anything to anything. So it glues steel to aluminium to plastic, foams, pretty much anything you can throw at this will glue. It actually creates almost like a permanent cement-like bond on the material that it glues to. And once it's stuck, has an instant kind of tack, but once it's stuck, it does not come off at all. The problem was this, though, something that we make mistakes, same as everybody else. We didn't take into consideration the coefficient of expansion, heat, and the expansion of different materials. Plastic expands at a different rate to metal. So the thin aluminium that this was actually glued to, when the vehicle was placed out in the sun, expanded at a different rate to the actual acrylic material here. So of course, because this is almost like a cement-like bond that this forms, it cracked and it allowed the water to leak through little micro holes, which meant that we had to take it all off and start again, which actually in itself was a massive, massive task, because trying to get it off is, as I said, it's virtually impossible. We went with this one. Again, it's another hybrid, very similar to this, but it's flexible. Now, it's a little bit like the seal that goes around the edge of your bath, but in an incredibly strong contact glue. And again, once this stuff is on, this really doesn't come off. So if we made a mistake with this one, we wouldn't just be peeling off the windscreen, we'd be putting a brand new windscreen on there.
Are you done yet?
Am I what?
Are you done?
No, I've got more. So I've got hybrid glues to talk about, and then obviously, I mean, there's the super glue stuff which we never use anyway. It's pretty rubbish, really. But
we should tell them about the con now. Why don't you go and get me a cup of tea, and then I'll tell them a little bit about the con, and then you can come back and do the rest of it later.
What about polymer-based glues and things like resin? Resin's a really good one. And then
so that's got rid of him. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about the virtual Comic-Con that we were part of over the weekend. So the timing on this one was absolutely brilliant because we were due to be showcasing our brand new prop with the dragon theme at a Comic-Con in Cornwall run by UK Comic-Con and gaming festivals. But unfortunately, you all know we couldn't go there. So instead, we premiered it at the virtual Comic-Con. We did them a little video and we did a question and answer session. A little bit more on that later. But first, I bet you're all thinking, well, how does it work, a virtual Comic-Con? I mean, that's going to be a bit weird. Well, it was really, really good. The tech worked brilliantly. When you pay for your ticket, or if you're a guest, you get a link to the Facebook page. And that Facebook page is like the heart of the Comic-Con. all day long, from 10 in the morning till 10 at night, there was things coming up on the Facebook page. There was questions and answers, there was showcasing, there was people doing demonstrations of how to do makeup and build props. There was all the guests there, question and answers with them. And then, of course, the traders were also publishing all their wares and all their special offers throughout the day. So basically for £3, if you're a punter, you got entertained from 10 o'clock in the morning till 10 at night. And running later meant that you could also have questions and answer sessions with people from overseas who, are in different time frames. So it was really, really good value for money. So yes, top marks, Geek Asylum, brilliant event. We really loved it. Would we like to do that instead of going to real ones? Probably not. When you go to a real one, you can really interact. You can see the quality of all those fabulous cosplays and, you meet all the people. But for a stopgap, while we're all missing the geekiness, it was absolutely brilliant. And the added bonus was they raised £1,900 for COVID-19 charities. So that was absolutely brilliant. So I promised you to know a little bit more about the dragons, our latest prop. Here they are. Hello and welcome to Virtual Con 2020 run by the Geek Asylum. This is Podpadstudios and we're really, really excited to be here because we got a little treat for you. So here I am, I'm in the garden, blazing in the sun, my luxury coach. Guess what's pulling it? We've got Steel here and we've got Stardust here, our two baby dragons. Aren't they lovely? And the thing about these dragons is they're really special because they're animatronic. So these dragons let you guys learn how they make things move when they're in the movies and the films and how props can be made to move. So they're educational as well as being very cute. So if I take this lever here and I move the lever, then Stardust's head move. And I can also make Steel's head move. So they can both move. And then I can move their tails too with these other levers. And this is a very, very simple, basic way of making a prop move because it uses cables, just like using your bicycle for the brakes. Very simple, very easy to do. People quite often ask what our props are made of. And in this case, the dragons, we've got a metal frame and a bit of wood, and then we've got a paper mache body. We've covered it with neoprene scales and then a lot of painting and a lot of love, plus all the electronics. So far, I've showed you a mechanical way of moving a prop, but these guys have also got an electronics in them too. So this controls the wings. So if I want to move a wing up, down, up, or even, I can hit this button and there's an actuator inside the wing and it moves. So I'm going to put that wing up and I'm going to put that wing up and I'm going to have both their wings up now. I think it looks really cool with the wings up. And you might have noticed as well, in their eyes move and they're breathing. Sometimes smoke comes out of their mouths too. And they're basically electronic systems that move the props. And they're what we call autonomous. They move as soon as you switch them on. There's a program running on a computer board that moves them. And we have a chance to be able to program those boards. So this is where you put the character in. Because the eyes can stay shut for quite a while, then they can open up, they can look around. And we program a very long program in there to make sure that it looks natural, that the creature is just moving around. Sometimes it dozes off, then it wakes up. That's the exciting part when they come alive, when you put those programs in. So that's all about the dragons. Now I'm just going to nip round the back. I'm going to go and talk to you a bit more about the coach.
So welcome back to part 4 of gluing. They say that you shouldn't have favourites, but when it comes to glue, I'm afraid I do. It's my glue gun. I love my glue gun. I use it all the time and I'd be actually lost without it. Now, it's a slightly different glue gun to a hobbyist glue gun. You can get these little small glue guns and these are fixed temperature glue guns. So you just plug them in, put the glue in and glue comes out. Great for working with fabric, cardboard, lightweight materials. Really, really good. A little tip with these, I see this a lot. If you're a costumer and you work with EVA foam, this kind of foam that we looked at earlier, don't use a glue gun like this. the temperature of this glue is very, very low. And what that means is that if you've stuck something together, if you stuck your EVA foam together with the glue gun, you leave it in the back window of your car, or you go to a Comic Con and you're out in the sun, bits of your costume will probably start to fall off, because basically the glue turns back into a molten form very, very quickly, very easily. Not great, really, not when you've spent a lot of hours trying to build something. If you're going to use a glue gun, get yourself a much heavier duty industrial sort of gun, which you can change the temperature. Because you can change the temperature and the flow of the glue, you've got a massive selection of different types of glues to choose from. Glue sticks all look the same, but actually they come in a massive variety of different variations, different glues for different things. There's as many different varieties of glues as there are normal glues. Anyway, I'm going to talk about these 3 different types of glues. Oh, except I've only got 2 of them here. Excuse me one moment while I just grab the other one.
Hi love, I got a cup of tea. Oh, what's all this here?
You don't know where that other glue is, do you? Those are the glue sticks.
I think they're in the bottom drawer.
Yeah, oh no, got them. I think they're in the top drawer. Got them, I think. Right, hang on. Yeah, they're the ones I want. Right, okay then. Sorry about that. Okay, so yeah, so we've got the different varieties here. Oh, cup of tea. As I mentioned, glue sticks come in all different shapes and sizes, and I mentioned earlier about EVA foam and gluing EVA foam. This particular glue we use quite a lot with gluing EVA foam because it has a very, very high temperature melt, meaning that we can glue this stuff together and it isn't affected by the sun, it isn't affected by the heat, unless the temperatures get to ridiculously high levels, which they're not going to do. The glue also almost dissolves the surface of the foam, meaning it doesn't just glue it together, it kind of welds it together. Now, a perfect example of this is one of our motorcycles that we created many, many years ago. So have a look at this and you can see where we've used this technology to good effect. Can they glue metal? No, most people experience of glue guns are these kind of glue guns, and you can't glue metal with them. It's that simple. You try, you can put the glue on the surface, but it simply won't bond the material together, especially aluminium, which conducts heat amazingly well. Now, I'll give you a little example. Look at this. This is a piece of armour from one of our recent projects, from our dragon projects. This is the piece of head armour off one of the dragons. Now, to fix all these scales together, these scales are made of 2mm aluminium plate, cut and then all fixed together. Now, the ideal situation here would be to TIG weld this. But this isn't TIG welded, and it's incredibly strong, and it is metal, it's not plastic. What we've done is we've glued it together. Now, you're not going to see the back, so it doesn't actually matter how pretty that looks. You're going to see the front. But we've glued it with a glue that glues metal. And the bond that this glue makes is, all right, not as strong as TIG welding, but it's not far off. Yeah, the glue is expensive, but it's actually cheaper than going to all the effort of buying a TIG welder and all the kind of the training and all the knowledge that goes with actually doing that. This is actually much easier. Now, we've used this kind of glue to really, really good effect in one of our most recent projects, and that was the Tron motorcycle. And we've recently been refurbishing that, moving it from a petrol-powered vehicle to an electric-powered vehicle. So check this out, have a look at this. So the plan is to remove that engine from this. I need to keep the frame. This was the Tron Bike. It's going to be now converted from a petrol Tron Bike, an electric motor Tron Bike. It's hard to believe that will replace that. Chain drive system exactly the same, but everything's got to come off. Carburetors, electronics, radiator, engine's got to come out, everything.
But you're a naked bike here. Workshop is full of crap again.
Right, I managed to get back to the bench. I wanted to sort of share with you a new secret project. Shh, don't tell anyone. This is our new little baby dragon, and he's going to be fully kind of animatronic. His wings open, his legs move, and he walks around on his own. He's brilliant, but he's obviously in the process of being built. Lots and lots of wires, servos, electronic boards, things like that. So I wanted to briefly talk to you about how I kind of connect all this stuff together. Now, we can't use glue to connect wires together because generally it doesn't make a very good electrical connection. Also, you can't really twist them together. You can't really just use multi-blocks. Again, it doesn't make a very good connection over time. The only way to really do it, to be absolutely sure, is to solder the wires together. Now, soldering is incredibly simple. This is not a masterclass in how to solder, the right things to do, the wrong things to do. This is just simply to show you that, you know, if you fix wires together, learn how to solder. You need a soldering iron and you need some solder. And basically all it is, all solder is basically soft metal. And you heat the soft metal up onto the tip of the metal that you're going to, or the wires you're going to join together. And it's that simple. It's like gluing, but with metal. Lots of different types of soldering iron. There are electrical soldering irons. There are gas soldering irons, which means instead of plugging it in, you put gas in it, which means you can take it out in the field. It's up to you what your choice is. So anyway, right, to start off, excuse me while I just put my old man's glasses on so I can actually see what I'm doing and I don't solder my fingers together. So, right, what I got here is, I'm going to just very briefly show you, connect these two wires together. This paste stuff is called flux. Now, it is actually really important. Tip the end of the wire into the flux. What it does is it stops the surface of the metal oxidizing. It creates like a colour chemical cleaner and it allows the solder to stick to the metal. Now, if you don't use it, what can happen is the solder can bubble off the surface of the metal and it doesn't make a proper contact. So actually it is quite important. So I'm going to heat the soldering iron up. Obviously you can use something to hold it, use a bit of blue tack or this fancy little thing I've got here. All we're going to do is put a bit of solder onto the end of the metal there. And the same onto this one. Only a bit more. And we're going to join them together. So bring the two together. And then you can see there that we've got a perfect electrical connection between the two wires. Now, obviously you need to insulate that. If you've got lots of wires all joined together, they can't all touch together. So we need to insulate that. So you could use some heat shrink around it. But obviously remember to put that on first before you do the soldering, otherwise you won't get it on. You could use some tape to wrap around it to insulate it, or do what I do, which is basically, back to my glue gun, I actually glue it around with some special insulating glue, which makes a perfect insulated connection. And then once those are all joined together, that'll bond, create a connection that will last for years and years and years, and you don't need to worry about wires tied together or multi-blocks that fall apart. Much more reliable. Right, so obviously when we were in the workshop we can use an electrical soldering iron. We're out in the field now, so I'm using this little sort of gas soldering iron. So what I'm going to do here is basically fix one of the wires. Now, I've already put a little bit of flux on it. Flux is like an electrical cleaner. So what we're going to do now is put a little bit of solder onto there. A little bit of solder onto here. And just bring the two together. And then that's soldered on there, and that's good enough for what we need for that. And I'll just repeat that with the next one. I'll use hot glue, seal it all up, and it'll be completely waterproof. And that's where you'd use a gas soldering iron out in the field, whereas an electrical one will be a little bit more. Also, this is quite hot compared to the electrical one as well. But the disadvantage is you can't vary the temperature, so it is, you know, either full on or full off.
So now I'm sitting in the coach. The coach is owned by Fortuna. She is the wicked, wicked witch. Oh, guys! Sorry about that. They don't really like her. I know she's their mistress, or master if you like, but she doesn't treat them well, and this isn't a good story. This is how we came here. Basically, Fortuna, she's a nasty bit of stuff. She saw the dragons and she wanted them, and she basically stole them as eggs. The mother and father were guarding them. There was a huge fight, but Fortuna won, and she killed their mother. And if you look at the carriage, it's got a lot of dragon claws and teeth and bone and scale all over it. And basically the carriage now has magic properties because it's protected by all that magic that was in their mother. So the dragons don't really know yet. She took them as eggs, they hatched, and they implanted on her, and they see her as their parent. And she put lots of little bits of mechanics and electrical stuff in them, implants too, so she can control them totally now. Obviously they're only babies. They will grow up. We don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to find out. So anyway, Fortuna jumps in her carriage when she wants to go somewhere, puts the spell on the dragons and lets go. They flap their wings and they fly off into the sky, pulling the carriage along with them. And Fortuna's in control at the moment. we'll see what happens in the future. So we're really looking forward to taking this prop out to let you guys all have a go. The levers control the dragon's wings, make the heads move, and you can come and sit in the carriage and have your photos taken. As soon as the con scene starts up, we'll be out and about on the road, and that's us done now. So have a good rest of Virtual Con, raise all that money for the NHS. We totally support you, we're totally behind you. Have a good time, and we'll see you later. Bye.
Welcome back. We've looked at gluing, we've looked at soldering, now we're going to look at welding. I want to sort of talk about one little thing. Do you know what? I wasted an awful lot of money over the years on welding equipment, and it's really difficult sometimes to get really, really good advice. The most important thing that I found is to buy the right tools for the right job. Don't try to cut corners. Don't try to sort of think, oh, that's a cheap bit of welding equipment, or that's a cheap glue gun, and go with that. Sometimes you have to pay a little bit of money for better quality equipment. Now, I started many, many years ago with a stick welder, like a lot of people do. And stick welding is really, really, really simple. All it is basically gluing with metal. There's a metal rod, you put it in a sort of a positive electrode. There's a negative electrode connected to your workplace. You touch that on there, and basically what happens is the metal welds its way, it dissolves, it liquefies onto this metal and binds and sticks the pieces of metal together. That's it. I suppose that's the very non-technical term. This isn't a masterclass in welding. Now, stick welding is brilliant for starting off, and for, you know, the carriage here behind me, the main frame on this carriage was done with stick welding, because you can weld chunky pieces of metal together and it stays together. The important thing about all of this kind of welding stuff, as you probably noticed with my amazing outfit here, is health and safety. Now, we do need to sort of touch on this. Notice the fire extinguisher there. You do have a habit of setting things on fire if you're not careful, so be very aware of where you are welding. Overalls, gloves, they go without saying, but probably the most important thing is this thing I'm wearing here. When you weld, it produces a very white light, a very sharp, it's an arc in effect. If you look at that arc when you're welding, you're going to mess your eyes up, so don't. Use a welding mask, use welding goggles, protect your eyes, it's really, really important. So, to move on, stick welding, it's where I kind of started. We then move on to this little gadget here. Now, both of these pieces of kit are from the same company, actually. They're from a company called Artec Welding. It's an absolutely brilliant company. It's really, really good. They make kit that works. And do you know what? It's actually one of the most important things. When you kind of reach for a piece of equipment, you just need it to work, especially welding. You don't need to be setting things up or changing things or altering settings. You just need to be turn the thing on, alter a few buttons, and it just works. And their kit does. So, you know, I've got the absolute total respect for this sort of stuff. This is a MIG welder. Now, the difference between a MIG welder and an arc welder is, you will have probably noticed, there's a big bottle of gas. MIG welders are slightly different in that they don't have the big stick of metal. What they have is they have wire that comes out. In fact, what I'll do is I will show you the wire coming out. Now, I don't know if you can see that now. If I press the button here, and the wire comes out. Now, it's this wire, when that comes into contact with the metal, you've still got the electrode, the negative on there. When that comes into contact with that, it will weld the metal together. It is literally like gluing with metal. Now, the reason for the gas kind of comes around the metal and shields it. It protects it as you weld, so it doesn't oxidize and the weld doesn't get dirty. A bit like when we were looking at the flux around the solder, it stops it oxidizing. Similar sort of idea. This is great for welding thin metal. So, for example, I might reach for the stick welder when I'm doing the main frame, but if it's thin metal, again, this is for steel, I'll reach for the MIG welder. It's incredibly versatile. It's also pretty good for heavy duty metal as well, but, you know, that's where you normally reach to the stick welder if you're welding much heavier metals together. Right, that's all done for the day. What are you up to?
I'll just sort out your nuts and screws.
My nuts are fine. I'll leave my nuts alone.